For me, I often describe painting as my lifelong love affair. It's something that I can turn back to, something that I can go to in any mood. It's something that I can explore my desires, explore my fears. Each painting I've done has a really powerful emotional undertone, and through the paintings for this show, I've really explored my internal headspace, and I'm trying to lay myself bare, whether it's through self-portraiture or through just very emotionally charged compositions. And with the narratives in this show, for me, they all come together in a succinct body of work, because each one, I'm trying to explore my emotional landscape internally through these very bizarre compositions that seem otherworldly. But I think when we decontextualize things from the real world, we can really explore the emotional nuances that are conveyed through painting. And as a medium, I find it to be the most honest and authentic one that I gravitate towards. The animals have definitely been like a starting point for me to explore topics that I perhaps didn't have the tools for. So through using them, they've allowed me to delve into quite uncomfortable topics that I ordinarily might have shied away from. And it's funny because in this show, even though I'm in very few paintings, it feels like the most revealing set of paintings that I've done to date, because they explore things that I'm ruminating on in a way that is not necessarily clear from A to B. And that's something that I really enjoy. Like, I really enjoy sort of the surreal aspect of navigating quite complex internal emotions. As a queer woman myself, it comes very naturally to me to subvert perceived notions of gender and sexuality. So it seems something that's like very instinctive to me. It's not something that I'm intellectualizing, it's something that I'm living. Like, I'm very hesitant to speak about womanhood as a whole because I can only talk about it from my experience as a queer woman. And I think that's what I'm trying to do in all of these paintings. I'm trying to talk about my experience and my place in the world and putting it out there as something that's like, it's not necessarily queer or woman, but it's human. In the show, we've got the use of like pigs and cows, which I see as like quite maternal figures. Interestingly for me, the pig became something about gender and sexuality. We've got a pig with bollocks that's profusely lactating. And I found that was like a really interesting way of experimenting with like perceived notions of gender without me depicting a human body. And then we have things like the cat. The painting, The Cat's Got the Cream and the Cream Is Me, is one that directly relates to the title of the exhibition, I See You, Do You See Me? And it comes from a place of wanting to gain a very close relationship with myself. But as you journey through life, the closer you get to yourself, the further you feel away, because you're constantly changing and evolving. The cat shows itself as a symbol of desire. It's looking for something, but it's looking in the total wrong way. Whereas the two figures underneath are facing the other way. And I think this often happens when we're trying to gain a relationship with the self, that there's only so much self-searching you can do. But I often find that that pushes you further away from what you really are. It's like, as children, we seem that we have the best notion of who we are. There's nothing that comes in between it. But as we become adults, you know, we have preconceived ideas of who we're meant to be, what path we're meant to take. And this all seems to be something that pushes us further away from ourselves. In A Goat Talks to God, I'm trying to show almost like a dark side of sexuality. The goats are as figures that are searching. They're actively seeking something that the figure is perhaps unwilling to give. I don't think we can journey through the world being devoid of sex, because I think it's something that's so innate and something that's so needed. But that painting shows my personal trepidation with presenting myself as a sexual entity. To dream is to lose the skin you're imprisoned in and to mourn the death of another day. This was the only painting in the exhibition where I haven't used myself as reference. I've also tried to make that image like very beautiful. I think that was the one painting that I was concerned with the beauty of it, and I'm not even quite sure why. It just felt instinctively right. Initially, the reference to that painting was taken from a photograph that I took of my girlfriend asleep. And when we're asleep, we seem, our faces take on kind of like a face that isn't ours, like we're unaware of what we're implying. The rabbit to me is almost a symbol of my part in that life cycle, like I am in the middle of it. And in a moment, the rabbit looks like it's just been killed. that's quite terrifying. We all could place ourselves in the warm grasp of someone else as we ourselves are dying. And I think this is mirrored by my investigation into the dreamscape, which is also reiterated in the painting that sat beside it. And the idea of the ants taking on the most active role in the whole composition, like everything else is laid dormant and to rest. And it seems so insignificant in a way, but en masse, it creates a tidal wave of feeling. With the making of my works for this show, like, the paintings don't exist in isolation. The narratives weave throughout each work to create this body, and it's things that I've been really ruminating on, such as like my place in the world, the idea of motherhood, the idea of consumption, both in animals, and also womanhood, the idea of like women and how they're perceived in the world. This show feels as close to getting it right as I can be, because what I've done and what I've learned through making this is how important it is to look slowly and let the painting overtake you. It becomes your mistress. It becomes the thing that guides you, the thing that fights with you. It's only through really actively listening to what each painting wants that it can come to life in the end.